Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerds of the Round Table, a show where we find and discuss the nerdiest news from the last week. My name's Jack, and I'm here with my older brother Paul, and we'll start this week the way we always do. Hey Paul, what have you been up to?
Hey Jack, I would imagine I'm up to the same thing as you, which is playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Hell yeah! Yeah, man. I mean, when a good game like that comes around, you can only resist it for so long. Like I keep feeling like I have to get back to it. It consumes parts of my life that I didn't expect it to. Like I'm standing there at work and I'm just like thinking about Horizon, or I'm like having dinner with Kate and I'm thinking about Horizon. It's really a distraction from other important parts of my life.
Well, it's also a distraction if you don't have a Nintendo Switch and are playing Zelda, right? So that seems to be the general consensus. If you've got Zelda, you're playing that. If you don't, hopefully you've got Horizon.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only other thing worthwhile out there right now, I think. And like that's both a compliment to the game and a testament to how amazing it is. It kind of puts everything else in perspective. I'm enjoying that game so much that, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm being unsuccessful already, but like I'm trying not to overstate it to people who haven't played it yet, because I don't want them to have ththose expectations. It's a subject that we've talked about a lot on the show before, is that expectation management when you're approaching a new game. And like I'm enjoying it so much that, like, you know, I have this coworker, and he often comes to me for game advice, and he's like, you know, what's the next thing I should play? And I was like, you have to get Horizon. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but like you have to get it.
So I really like the game. I mean, I think it's great, but I still prefer The Witcher.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that.
You know,
do you want, yeah.
I think Horizon Zero Dawn is awesome. I do see the issues that you saw with the face animations now.
Yeah.
In fact, I was playing it, as I told Stacy on Saturday, I need to do research. I need to play this game so that I can talk about it on the podcast. And in the 30-second attention span that she has for video games, she noted immediately that there was just something wrong about those facial animations.
Hey,
she caught that really quickly.
Hey, that's not what humans do. That's not what humans look like. No, I mean that it does stand out. I haven't gotten over it completely. Like I still kind of like smirk slightly on the inside when I see the mouth not quite opening correctly and the eyes not quite looking just right. But like,
yeah, I mean, to be fair, Stacy is a speech language pathologist. Like it is literally her job to understand how all of those things fit together and how people communicate and things like that. So it was very obvious to her once she saw it.
Yeah, of course. And I think as soon as you notice it, like just knowing what other humans are supposed to look like when they speak, like she might have like an extra sensitivity to it, but like eventually I feel like it just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. And I don't know. I mean, of the games, compared to the game's good qualities, it is forgivable. I think, I mean, I'm assuming you would agree with that. But it is a little distracting at first, but I don't know. I got over it. But I mean, yeah, the gameplay is awesome. I've gotten a little bit farther along the main storyline, and you know, not to spoil anything, but there are some answers to some questions that you develop over the course of playing it that I found both satisfying. Trying to dance around it a little bit. I found them satisfying answers. I still feel like there's a lot more to learn. I feel like this game has several layers of mysteries and questions that the player comes into it with, almost from the jump, like, you know, wondering what happened to the world, what happened to this character, like why are they who they are, you know? And I've gotten about, I don't know, half of those answers, and I feel good about what the story is doing so far. So
cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not nearly as far along as you are, and to be honest with you, right now I find myself falling into the typical trapping of a open world game where I'm getting very distracted from the main quest and doing like a bunch of, you know, map searching to find items and doing side quests. And the side quests tend to be the same thing. It's like go to this point, then this point, then this point.
Yeah.
And then
use
come back.
Use your detective mode. They might as well call it detective mode. Like,
yeah. It's like the Batman, the Arkham games.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, like we had talked about this, comparing this game early on to The Witcher, which is why I'm assuming you bring up The Witcher. And it's not quite there in terms of the quality of side quest, but I am enjoying the construction of the world and this kind of both insider and outsider perspective that the main character brings, like as someone who lives in that world but is a little bit removed from the society that she comes up in. So I feel like that offers a really interesting player surrogate for you to experience the world from someone who should understand it but is also removed from it a little bit. I don't know if you find that as well.
I think here's the easiest way for me to make the comparison. I look at The Witcher as like a mini functioning world where there is the main storyline, but there is also just this depth of story around the side quests, and it almost feels like a living world. In Horizon Zero Dawn, I feel like they did a really good job making an interesting and compelling story, but the world around it right now, to me, feels a little flat. And maybe that's only because, I haven't progressed all that far in the game, and things will slowly start to reveal a little more as I progress. But right now, they did a really good job with the main storyline, making it interesting and compelling. But the side stuff doesn't really make the world feel alive yet.
I think I know what you're saying. To me, I don't know if this is a comparison that you would agree with, but there are worlds in video games that feel like whether your character is there or not could go on without them. You know what I mean? Like would have stories without that character. Whereas I feel like Horizon Zero Dawn, even though I really enjoy the world, that world would not continue to interact with itself or create stories without the character of Aloy going in there and mixing things up and affecting things. Like it doesn't seem truly alive. It seems like something that is waiting for you to affect it. Whereas The Witcher almost felt like a world that would go on without you regardless. Yeah,
like you were at times almost voyeuristically looking in on something that was functioning. Like you were arriving at these places that had movement and life to them.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see that yet in Horizon Zero Dawn. But that said, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great game so far, and I can't wait to put some more time into it.
Right. Okay. So it's definitely time that we move on to our stories for the week. But
absolutely,
I'm enjoying that game immensely, and I think everyone who can play it should go play it. It's well worth the time and the money, I gotta say. So let's get into the first story that we wanted to talk about this week, which is that the Nintendo Switch came out a couple days ago.
Yay!
And it was I would say it's pretty well received, just from some of the buzz I've heard around the industry, the industry and podcasts that I listen to and things of that nature. Yeah. I mean, like nothing, no one's saying it's the best console that was ever released, but most people are agreeing that it seems to be achieving what it wants to achieve. Is that fair to say?
I think that is being very generous.
Well, I don't want
saying something achieves what it wants to achieve is a pretty low bar. Let me put it this way.
Sure.
Nintendo, after the last couple, well, especially after the Wii U, but even the Wii, had a lot of catching up to do. So to say it's not the best console out there after getting a solid 3-year look at existing generation of consoles in the PS4 and the Xbox One, and it still can't play titles that were released on those consoles a year or two ago.
Yeah.
that is weak.
Yeah.
I think, so look, I think the topic was to talk about the fact that there are reviews. Some of them are positive. My take on it, though, is there are so many negatives to it right now that even if you have a title like Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game, which, I'm sure we'll talk about next, is, getting rave reviews, the one thing holding it back is the system that it's running on. And that's not a good situation to be in. Yeah,
I mean, like, you're right. And the thing is, like, when I say it's receiving generally favorable reviews, I kind of mean that in that most people are saying, like, it's a good console if you're looking for Nintendo games.
Yeah, it's like it's a good console for Nintendo.
Yeah, it's a good console if you're already a Nintendo fan and you want to play Nintendo games, which if
you want to play one Nintendo game.
Yeah, that's also a fair point to bring up, because another thing in a lot of the reviews that a lot of reviewers had to mention was the fact that, like, hey, we might think this is a pretty good console for Nintendo fans, but also if you're planning on playing more than 1 or 2 games this year, tough shit. Like, it's just where we're at right now with this console. So I mean,
what are your thoughts on it? Like, after, like, do a meta review of of the system. Well, no, I mean, but not summarize the other reviews, but from what you've read, what are your opinions? What are your concerns? What are your high points in the system?
I mean, honestly, like, okay, this is the thing, and I didn't want to come out too hard against Nintendo because I always do that, but ultimately what this feels like is that it's just more of Nintendo being Nintendo. And maybe they have, a promising mobile console on their hand, or maybe they have an innovative home console on their hands. It just seems like they failed to reach out to hardcore gamers and the third party market in a way that's going to end up being satisfying to me. I don't think I could ever think of a Nintendo console, and it doesn't seem like they have any interest in doing this, as a primary console. It'll never be your primary place to play games. And as someone who is perfectly happy with their PS4 and who could easily see a world in which I was happy with an Xbox One, I don't think I could be happy with just a Nintendo Switch. And that's the key there, isn't it? Just the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, where I compared the Switch to an iPad.
Yeah.
And I actually read an article on Friday where someone did the same thing, basically saying that the competition that the Switch is going after is not the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. It is the iPad. It is the mobile market, because that's really the only ones they can compete against.
Right.
Let me put it this way: they can't get their flagship game, Zelda, to run more smoothly on the Switch than they can on the Wii U. It runs smoother in some cases on the Wii U than it does on the Switch.
Sure.
That does not bode well for the hardware.
Yeah, it doesn't say a lot for the quality of the structure of it, both from the hardware and a software side. It doesn't necessarily mean power. It doesn't speak to its power.
Well, I mean, it suggests that, like you look at the games, if it can't play the games that were made for it on day one, it is going to struggle playing more complex games or more demanding games in the future. And it also means that developers are going to have to come to grips with how they develop for the Switch versus the PS4 or the Xbox One. So there's less likely to be, third-party games that support all 3 of those console platforms.
Yeah.
Which is, again, going to leave Nintendo out in the cold with a console where they're the only ones producing content for it.
I mean, it's horrifically disappointing, isn't it? Because, like, ultimately what I wanted was Nintendo to either come out with a serious competitor to the PS4 or the Xbox One, or embrace the fact that they are Nintendo and like and as far as I'm concerned, the only way to really do that is go software only and publish on other platforms. And like, I know some people don't want to hear that, but that's, if you're just going to produce a console that is only people's secondary console, you're never going to catch a big enough audience anymore to be considered a success. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that is fair.
And so what that means is that Nintendo is going to keep having these like weird in-between steps for generations, and I honestly think it's going to keep falling farther and farther behind of what we consider the bar, and that doesn't mean that it won't be as successful in the market. And I don't know, it's just not what I wanted for them. It's not what I wanted for Nintendo. I wanted to see them either put their games somewhere else, you know, on a PS4, on the Xbox One, on the PC maybe, and like, or produce something that was a real competitor. And it's everything that we were kind of afraid that it would be. Even if it's good as a Nintendo console, is it good as a console? And like, I don't know. I feel bad crapping on it because I wanted it to be more, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you look at it and you see, this to me seems like one of those situations where instead of having a solid piece of hardware where the games being released on it help the hardware sell, it almost, they're potentially at risk of having really awesome games. You know, I say games plural, but I really mean game right now. that is literally hindered by the hardware. So instead of software helping the hardware, it's actually the hardware hurting the software in this case. Because if they'd released Breath of the Wild on the Xbox One, the PC, the PS4, this thing would have sold tens of millions of copies.
Probably.
And I'll tell you, if there were tens and tens of millions of people buying the Switch, a huge chunk of them are going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, and you know, this is as good a time as any to get into the games or game that is the big draw to the Switch right now, and that is Breath of the Wild. And you kind of mentioned it before. It's reviewing exceptionally well. It's sitting on Metacritic right now at a 98, which is absurd. Like, you don't really hear about numbers like that.
Right.
And do you feel, so you're not picking up a Switch, right? Not
that is correct.
Not immediately.
A friend of mine is picking up the Switch, and I would be curious to play Zelda on the Switch. I think that would be, from everything I've read, it seems like it's a great game.
Right.
But no, I'm not. I have no plan on picking up the Switch at its current price point.
So it would not, and this is part of the problem, isn't it? It's difficult to justify the purchase of a $300 console, which is as much as an Xbox One or a PS4, plus the cost of a $60 game.
Right.
It's almost impossible to justify that, almost no matter how good that game is. And I'm someone with an attachment, I would say, to the Zelda franchise, maybe not as strong as some other people that I know, but the fact that a Zelda game scoring almost a 100 from Metacritic is not enough to get me to go out and buy a $300 console, it says something about it. And like, I understand that the console that the game in question is exceptional, but 300 is 300, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, to get the console now means that you have a real faith that they're going to come out with 6, 7 really strong titles in the next 12 months.
And I don't, I just don't have that faith. I just don't know like what else they're going to be bringing to the table.
I mean, they've got a weak online system. The kind of games with gold or the PlayStation Plus free game equivalent that they're going to come out with is also pretty weak. You lose the title at the end of the month.
Yeah.
The lack of functionality on the tablet itself outside of games, I don't know. It's just, yeah, the weak battery life. I don't know. I just can't do it. I mean, here
we gotta get off into I can't. Right. It's bumming me out. Unless did you have something else you wanted? I don't want to cut you off, but did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, nothing useful.
Yeah.
What I would say is, I'm super excited that they came out with a really good Zelda game.
Yeah.
It seems like it is a winner by every standard, and I hope it sees release on other consoles at some other time. I have no faith that will happen.
No.
The only other thing I can hope for is that the price of the Switch drops at some point in the reasonably near future, that it makes it more reasonable to pick up a console.
Exactly, and that's what I'm anticipating. The price will eventually drop, or they will eventually announce a new Super Smash Brothers, and I will buy that console because I'm
that's the criteria.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
One or the other.
All right.
But let's move on to our next story. Another game that I'm pretty excited to hear about, even if it wasn't an official announcement. Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox Software, came out on stage at GDC 2017 to talk about how Gearbox is utilizing Unreal Engine 4. And they were showing off a tech demo that strongly hinted at a Borderlands 3 being both in development and maybe pretty far along. I don't know.
Didn't they say Borderlands 3 in the demo?
He did not say Borderlands 3. He said that people who were excited, fans, customers and fans who were excited for a sequel in the Borderlands franchise, they are working on it. And some, I'm sure they were showing off the Unreal Engine 4 tech demo within the context of some Borderlands stuff that we've never seen before, and with a character that we've never seen before, even though they hid the character's face and most of their features. So it's like they all but announced it without announcing it for the sake of showing off some of the tech they were using. And I don't know how much of it you watched, but a lot of it looks incredible. They're really putting that Borderlands art style to work in this tech demo. I recommend anyone go check it out if you're even a little bit fascinated in how they kind of construct what games look like. There was a lot of language that I don't understand at all, but I know pretty pictures when I see them. So
they put a lot of work into making technology and assets for designers to be able to build, the Borderlands style world, using the new engine and being able to do things quickly that were previously done by hand or not done at all with the technology they'd been using in previous iterations of the game. And so the end result is a game that still has or at least a tech demo that still has the Borderlands style. Yeah, but a lot of the stuff is
comic booky looking style.
Yeah, but a lot of it is tweaked and refined, and in the way that it looks, but also tweaked and refined in how quickly animators and designers can build these assets and make them look good. So hopefully it means they can build games quicker, or they could build games that look better or have bigger, more complex worlds faster. So I think either way, the technology makes it a win for those who are looking forward to a new Borderlands game.
Yeah, and that's me all over, really. I mean, we got to keep moving onto some other stories, but the last thing I'll say is that I've talked about it before on this podcast. I'm a massive fan of the Borderlands franchise, and the fact that they had a character developed enough that they wouldn't want to show that character's face means to me that hopefully they're a little bit closer than I would have expected to a potential actual announcement.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do something at E3.
Yeah. So our next story is something that I thought you might want to talk about, which is the Xbox Game Pass, which offers unlimited access to more than 100 games that will be swapped out periodically in kind of a Netflix-style service, if that makes sense. And I was wondering, like, you checked this out, obviously. Do you think that this is something that would interest you personally, or would be of interest to many gamers, all over the place?
I think this is a really smart move by Microsoft.
I agree.
I think this. I mean, when you can buy a console for $250 or $300, and then for $10 a month have access immediately to 100 games that you can download onto your console and play, I think that's a compelling story. Now, the thing that is holding me back at the moment from jumping into something like this is I want to see what those 100 titles are.
Yeah.
And I want to get a better sense of what that rotation schedule is like.
I mean, they did mention...
Because,
go ahead.
Well, let's be honest. It's 100 games. Some of those are going to be backwards compatible games.
Yep.
Probably very few of them are going to be release day games, if any. And if they are, they're probably from indie or smaller studios. You're not going to get a AAA title for release day as part of these 100 games, at least not at the beginning. And, I don't know how much utility I would get out of spending $10 a month for 100 games. How many of those games am I actually ever going to be able to play?
Right. Yeah. No. And I think you're right on the money. I think anything that's released day one there is going to be a smaller title, which doesn't necessarily mean anything good or bad. It just means that it's going to be a smaller title, something you probably wouldn't be spending $60 on anyway. And anything big, Gears of War, Halo, whatever, is not going to be on there day one, almost guaranteed. That Microsoft did mention, I think, that they intend to have a lot of Microsoft first-party titles on there, but at the same time, those are probably the cheapest ones for them to get the rights to put on a service like that. So, of course,
sure,
it's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great move by them. I hope it works out well. I've been a fan. I've been a fan of what Microsoft's been doing over the last few years, not only in terms of the Xbox, which I think they've innovated on at a faster rate than the PlayStation, the Sony folks have.
I think that's fair.
But they've been doing it across their products, both for enterprise and for home, with Windows and with their hardware and software. So I'm a thumbs up for Microsoft right now. So I hope this works out for them. I'm just going to hold off and see what this looks like before jumping into anything, and I guess that's about all I have to say, other than trying to make a quick transition to the next topic, which is I don't think our next title is going to be in the Game Pass when it's released.
Sure. The next title that we're talking about is the leaked screenshot for Assassin's Creed Empire, which is going to be the next title in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which all but confirms the, without them actually saying anything, the setting in Egypt, which most likely means a return to more olden times than what we've seen recently, in the industrial age in England. I don't think they've gone
the American
farther.
Revolution.
American Revolution. I think the most recent one was Victory, which was Victorian England. I think that was the latest time period they've gone to.
You mean the most recent?
Yeah.
The Syndicate was...
Oh, not Victory, Syndicate. Hey, what's Victory?
Yes. I don't know. But that was
title?
late 1800s. So I think it was after the third one, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And probably even after Black Flag as well.
Yeah. So that's probably that's the farthest they've gone in the franchise. So this, any farther than that in Egypt, and you're getting into very modern times. So this has to be a return to pharaohs and sphinxes and pyramids, right?
Well, I hope the reset in time period is also a reset in terms of the technology and gameplay. Because if this turns out to be just another Black Flag or Syndicate, then I'll skip it.
Yeah, count me the hell out. I mean, I played Syndicate. I talked about it on the show a little bit. I found it pretty boring, pretty formulaic. It was.
I found it to be pretty though.
Oh yeah, pretty, but definitely, but pretty also boring.
I
mean,
exactly.
it was very much, it was Assassin's Creed, you know, like it had some of the touches of what modern games have brought to the industry, but at the same time, it was like still just Assassin's Creed. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring this up to kind of point it out. I agree with you. I hope it is a refresh for the franchise because they did take that year off. They mentioned that they would stop annualizing and take another look at the Assassin's Creed franchise when they started to see that people weren't as interested in purchasing it every year. So I guess they saw that and they're hoping to kind of get a bump in sales by refreshing things and making things new again. So I'd like to believe that's the case because early on in the Assassin's Creed franchise, I was very into it. So if they can make things new again, I'm on board.
Agreed.
Cool. Now, speaking of things I'm on board for, I saw a teaser today for.
You only saw this today?
Yeah, I didn't. I hadn't looked into it beforehand. For Deadpool 2. No
Good Deed.
Yeah, the No Good Deed teaser trailer, I guess it is, on Ryan Reynolds' personal YouTube channel. Because I guess that's just how things are done. I don't know. I would have expected to see it on like a movie, publishers or whatever channel, but that's fine. You watched it, right? It's about 3 minutes long, or 4 minutes long.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty great. Like, and I interrupted Kate in the middle of a movie she was watching to show it to her, and she was just like not as into it as I was. I think it's because I was like I was assaulting her with this. Like, isn't this funny? Which is not a great way to introduce someone to some like comedic thing. But anyway, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Did Kate see the original movie?
She did. Yeah, I think we went to see it together. I dragged Kate to see most of the comic book movies that I see because when I like my friends go and see it before I can like get off on that night to like go see it with them in the theater. So Kate ends up being the person I drag out to the theaters with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I showed this to Stacy and she thought it was pretty funny. She also liked seeing Ryan Reynolds getting changed in a phone booth. So that.
Well, who doesn't?
I'm kidding. Yeah.
No, just trying to move on from that. No, I mean it looked. I mean, it's got the same kind of irreverent style and like commentary on the comic book hero movie that you would want from Deadpool. I mean, part of his character is that he is aware that he's in a comic book universe. So seeing him interact with Stan Lee and seeing him make a commentary on both Logan and the fact that Logan is Hugh Jackman, who is Australian. All in a quick 10-second sequence is very good.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was great. Definitely worth watching.
Yeah, at the same time, it is very much like the comic book movie viewers comic book movie that makes fun of comic book movies. So it's like hard to it's hard to bring someone in on that.
I'll take your word for it. I didn't understand what you were saying.
But it looks good. Everyone should go check it out. But the other thing that people should check out is the teaser for Dave Chappelle's Netflix special that's coming out soon. And I wanted to bring this up because we had mentioned it before, the fact that Dave Chappelle was doing, I think, 2 or 3 Netflix specials. And Dave Chappelle was 2? Okay, cool. Dave Chappelle was one of the first comedians that I was very into listening to his comedy. I don't know what about him appealed to me other than the fact that he was just a really good comedian. So I'm very excited to see what he does for Netflix. And it's just a quick trailer that has audio clips of 1 or 2 jokes from his specials, but I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. How do you feel?
I've always liked Dave Chappelle's stuff, whether it was the show or the stand-up before then.
Right.
I think he's a really smart comedian and very blunt and honest.
Yeah.
in his approach to topics. I think he's kind of no holds barred approach to talking about various things. I really enjoyed his opening monologue, for example, from Saturday Night Live earlier this year. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it. I'm really glad it's coming to Netflix. I think they scored a huge win with this. They seem to be hitting all the right buttons to land some pretty good content on their service.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, we could talk about this for another 10 minutes, but it would just be us talking about how great Netflix is again, for the third or fourth episode. Just completely dedicated to Netflix at this point. We were more a Netflix podcast than we are a video games podcast. But anyway,
I mean, do you think they would sponsor this podcast? I mean, at this point,
that would be great. Yeah, we're doing a lot of free advertising. But anyway, yeah, I'm super excited to see what Dave Chappelle has to bring to the comedy world. I think he created. He inspired a lot of people with his first couple rounds of the comedy circuit, and then he seemed to disappear for like a long time, and to see what he's like when he is finally back, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm very excited, but I also don't want to be let down. I want to keep my expectations in check so that I don't get too excited. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't into this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think when he went away, it was a real disappointment. I think he was, like it was peak Chappelle at the time, and I think it seems like he got too caught up in the life of a celebrity, and it hopefully this time around he's able to bring it back to the type of comedy and the type of focus that he had early on, and I think we'll see March 21st.
Yep.
If that is the case, and I really hope it works out well for him. Continues to work out well for him going forward, and I can't wait to see what he's got in store.
Yeah, me too, and I think it will. So unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about this week, Paul, I think that does it for us. Anything for you? No, I think that's about it for me. Hopefully we can get some listener questions in next time we chat. Yep, totally forgot to ask. But what we'll do is we'll make it a part of Knerds DLC this coming week. So anyone who doesn't know what Knerds DLC is about, we'll be releasing our second episode later this week. It's a single topic show where we take on one of the things that we touch on in episodes like these, where we can't really get into the full-blown topic of DLC or pre-orders or other industry elements or trends that we want to talk about, but we get into them in Knerds DLC, and I think that's where we'll start answering most of our listener viewer questions.
And if people have any ideas for topics between now and the end of this week or in the future, it'd be great to hear what people want to hear about.
Yeah, and if you want to make it easier for us to find, you can always tag it with like hashtags NerdsDLC. I'll check on that to see topic suggestions, and hopefully that's a good way to keep ourselves organized, and we'll add it to the pile that we have going for topics. But thank you everyone for listening or watching, and thank you for supporting us here at Knerds. It means a lot to both myself and Paul, and I don't know. I'm really enjoying actually getting to have these conversations with you. You and I talk about games all the time, and it's good to finally get some of this on recording and let other people listen in. Yeah,
I've enjoyed it so far. So hopefully we can continue to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any questions, feel free to tag them with I don't know, hashtag Knerds might be good, or just tweet them at me or Paul. That's probably just as easy. We'll either answer them on Twitter or we'll answer them on one of the podcasts that we do. And tell a friend about us, review us on iTunes, do all that good stuff. And thank you so much for listening.
Hey, Jack, how do people get in touch with us on Twitter?
That's what I was missing. See, I just watched 3 hours of The Bachelor and had several glasses of wine and a little bit of whiskey. So, so I don't know if I'm at 100% right now. But you can tweet at me at Jack is Gaming if you want to know about The Bachelor or video games, and you can tweet at Paul is Gaming if you want to know about technology and other smart things that aren't The Bachelor.
And with that, we're signing off.
Yeah. Do you want to? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Keep gaming.